Welcome to another installment of Riding Japan, or should I say Flying to Germany. Unfortunately, on the day of the flight I couldn't go to Narita by car, so we had to use the train. Narita is the big international. It takes about 1.5 hours by train and maybe about the same time by car, but because of the luggage and my little son, it would have been a lot easier to go by car than by train. We had to transfer twice. It's about 1.5 hours by train. It doesn't look like a lot of snow in the video, but Tokyo people and the cars are not used to the snow on the road, and the highways would have been one big traffic jam. So we took this trip because my son was 1 year and 3 months at that time, and if the child you're carrying with is under 2 years, they don't have to buy a ticket. But they are still allowed a 20-kilo suitcase, but they aren't allowed any hand luggage. His ticket was about 5,000 yen and mine was 125,000 yen. Even though he's only 15 months, he has flown quite a bit in his life already. It was the first time flying with me by myself. But you can see in the video here, his little eyes got really big. To be honest with you, hindsight is 20/20, and I should have turned him around on the takeoff. He shouldn't be facing me. So the flight was about 10.5 hours, and we were mostly being chased by the night. A while into the flight, he's kind of starting to explore, and he realizes how big this big place actually is. And then there's always the chance to find entertainment. Keep him busy, keep him quiet. Just to explain a little about the flight time, we were planning to arrive around 10ish in Narita, so we left between 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning by train. The flight departure, I believe, was around 12:30, and at that time there was a 7-hour difference between Europe and Japan. The plane wasn't really that full and the staff was very helpful. When I checked in, they asked me if I wanted to sit in a row of 4 by myself. So when I said yes, she blocked the whole row of 4 for other booking, which meant that, well, basically we could sit by ourselves. And my plan was to maybe lie down, but he didn't really want to sleep on the plane, unfortunately. For the entire 10-hour flight, it was bright outside. And unfortunately they didn't turn off the light on the planes properly. Even though it seems kind of dark in the video, the plane wasn't actually that dark, so my son couldn't really sleep. In case you're wondering, all of this footage has been shot on a Samsung Galaxy S4 and not my usual GoPro, because it was much easier for me to record little clips on the flight. The night kind of caught up with us, and my son managed to sleep for maybe 20 or 30 minutes. Unfortunately, he kept shifting, and what may look uncomfortable because he's lying on top of me, he really needs the warmth and he needs the proximity to my body because he doesn't want to be alone. He doesn't want to sleep by himself. This is about how dark it got outside. You could always see the sun on the horizon for the entire flight. He kind of woke up very soon, and we went back to entertainment, trying to find some toys to play with. So basically we were chasing the day, or the night was chasing us. The flight home, by the way, was much easier because in those 3 months in between he grew up a lot, he could walk much better, and because we went from west to east, we actually flew through the night and they turned off the lights completely, and my son could sleep probably 4 hours out of the 10. Unfortunately, I didn't take any video at that time. And then we were served breakfast when they turned on the light a little more further. The flight attendants were really great. I believed that the 5,000 yen I paid for him would be for a meal, but unfortunately it wasn't. I don't know where the money went, because he wasn't technically getting a seat. He could just have one because the flight was empty. If the flight had been fully booked, he wouldn't have had a seat for the entire flight. So we kind of shared our meal, and the flight attendants were very good and very helpful. And they actually gave us fruit for him from their personal stash. And there we have Stockholm. I hope the image quality is okay. Unfortunately, as I said, it's recorded on the Galaxy S4, not the GoPro. I've used a lot of digital stabilization to make this movie actually watchable. Unfortunately, image stabilization crops the picture, but I think the movie turned out alright. Please let me know if you actually made it this far into the movie in the comments. I know that this kind of stuff is very different from what I usually upload and what you probably subscribe for. You may wonder why he's drinking at the time here. It might be interesting for you to know that children that age cannot equalize that. When you go up, the pressure around you is different, is actually lower, which means the ears technically equalize themselves if the pressure is too high. What helps is chewing and swallowing. But this time I made the right choice of turning him around. When you go down, the pressure outside is bigger than the one in your ear, so he will feel pain. So I made sure he wouldn't drink anything about 2 hours before the landing, and I had him drink at the beginning of the landing when the pressure change was probably the biggest. He didn't cry at all during takeoff and landing.
Oh, it doesn't focus. It doesn't focus at all.
And we've arrived in Copenhagen. We had a 2-hour stopover in Copenhagen before our next flight to Hamburg. And please remember, except of 20 minutes, he still hasn't slept. So we arrived at 4 and the security check happened. When he's sitting on the table here, it's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And you can add 7 hours on top, which means it's around midnight for him. Going to the toilet in the airport, that was probably my first real big culture shock. I just thought, this is not Japan anymore. It started getting dark around 5:30, and that's when he fell asleep in that carrying case. This is the gate to the Hamburg flight.
You know you're gonna get down on the platform.
And that's our next plane. But I have to say, for our second flight, he wasn't awake for any of it. He was asleep while I was boarding. He was asleep when I walked around in the plane. I sat down in my seat. I actually turned him around on my lap, and belted him in. He didn't awake at all. He didn't even awake at takeoff during the entire flight, and he just woke up when we were landing. The flight time, the second flight's flight time was about 50 minutes, but I'm guessing that it was the last flight of the day for the pilot, who probably flies between Hamburg and Copenhagen all the time. The flight time was scheduled to be 50 minutes, but he managed to fly us back in 35, which is probably a record. This is the landing, and you can see he's still sleeping. I believe we arrived around 6:30ish, and it was already completely dark. So thank you for watching, and please do me a favor and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this type of video and if you've enjoyed it. I wonder how many people have made it till the end. There will be 2 more videos in Germany probably, and that'll basically conclude my 3 months trip. I didn't have a lot of time because I had to take care of my son. So see you guys on the next one. He kind of woke up when we got on the bus, and I believe that I actually managed to film my son's first bus drive in his entire life.